Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for your patience. I'd like to acknowledge that we did have a little bit of a delay this evening getting started. Unfortunately, we faced some IT issues, but we've since overcome them. We hope so. We'll ask everybody to cross their fingers, and hopefully we can make it through tonight's meeting. Thank you very much to staff for getting us started tonight. With that said, we will call this meeting to order and note the members present at 6:39 p.m. We will begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathering on the land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. We would like to recognize that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory, and the land on which we are gathered today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. Specifically, we acknowledge the neighboring community of Mishpekant First Nation, for whom we have great respect. We also recognize the contributions of all Indigenous peoples, including the Métis, in shaping and strengthening the community in the province of Ontario. Thank you, and miigwech. We'll now move on to item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest.
I have one.
The matter pertaining to the conflict was on the regular agenda, so you should declare at the beginning of the regular agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other declarations? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. May I have a mover? Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon. All in favor? Carried. Item number 4, delegations and presentations. 4.1, Wawa Strategic Plan update. We have Mr. Michael Wildman and Mr. David Reed from the Municipal Government of Houston.
Good evening, Mayor. You were cutting out a little bit there, so I hope you're hearing me okay. Are you hearing me? Yes?
Yes,
okay.
we are.
Great. If you're not, just let me know, give me a wave or something, and we'll hold. So I'm not sure if you said it was okay to proceed. If that's the case, we'll do so.
Yes, please proceed.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you. It's good to be back here again and meeting with council and staff. The last time we chatted was back in June, where we presented the feedback that we collected and some recommendations on items to be included in your refreshed strategic plan. And we took direction from you then, and we prepared a draft. And we consulted with your CAO just before submitting the final version, just to make sure that we weren't saying anything that was inaccurate. So Maury was very helpful in steering us in a few items. So this evening, what we will do is we will put the strategic plan up on the screen. It's the best thing to walk us through. So if I have permission, and I think I do, I will put that up in one moment. Just bear with me. All right. And does council see that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. All right. So this evening we're here to present you with the final draft, as we're calling it. If there's anything that council wishes to ask throughout the presentation, please do. If there's any concerns that council has with content, also please let us know, and we'll certainly make sure that those are addressed. Your plan begins with an identification of the councillors there. So we have that smiling crew there with your names and your photograph. The table of contents lays out just exactly how your plan is put together. beginning with the land acknowledgement, very, very similar wording, almost identical to what you said this evening, Madam Mayor, but just tweaked it ever so slightly so that it is not as though it's being read at the beginning of a meeting. But I think there's only a few word changes there, followed by an executive summary, a message from both the mayor and the CAO, some background, mission statement, vision statement, core values, key priorities, action items, strategic plan at a glance, summary sheet, and a key priority and action item sample report card. So this is very familiar to council. It is, as I mentioned, almost identical to what the mayor just read out. So this is at the beginning of your plan. With respect to the executive summary, I won't read this verbatim. I know the council's had this for a little while and has had an opportunity to peruse, but the executive summary really talks about some of the work that led up to this latest refresh of your strategic plan, beginning with the transformation review, which is akin to a service delivery review or an operational review. And it speaks to the consultations that were done through through that study, and also how that led to your most recent strategic plan. And with the recent election and a new council in place, that there was a decision to proceed and refresh the plan, and that's why we're here. There was also consultations that occurred with council staff and the community through a high-level online survey. This strategic plan builds on what was done the last round, and also the transformation review, and it aligns quite well. So it will be a very good go forward strategic approach to goal setting, and it should be read in conjunction with your transformation review because it has been harmonized with it, and we'll get into what that means as we move through the plan this evening. And this plan is intended to ensure business continuity as the new council takes office at the end of this term. So it will carry forward a little bit beyond that, and it will be the handoff, if you will, the handoff document. It's also important to notice that it is sometimes necessary to make course corrections when appropriate as part of the monitoring and reporting process. And really to give you a sample of why might you do a course correction? Well, if you had a strategic plan that had been approved before COVID hit, certainly you may well have had a good reason to amend your plan. So that would be an example of when you might do something like that. There's always an importance to reporting on your strategic plan, and I know that your CAO has been doing a great job at providing those reports to council and updating. And the strategic plan should inform departmental work plans, and those are the plans that the administration uses to operationalize council's priorities. And in an organization such as yours, the CAO is the leader of all of these critical steps. Here we have a message from the mayor. I won't read it aloud, but in essence, it is the mayor speaking to the importance of a strategic plan, the value of having it, and her commitment to overseeing its implementation. In a similar way, from the administration's perspective, we have a message from the CAO as well. And she acknowledges also the importance of the plan and its utility in ensuring that council's long-term vision is implemented. So with respect to background, this is where we talk about Wawa in general, that you're a small municipality and that you're in Algoma region, that you lay claim to some of Ontario's most spectacular natural beauty, that it's a community that is often thought of as having outstanding outdoor activities such as fishing, hiking, hunting. And so this really sort of paints a picture of Wawa a little bit. And it speaks of the common challenges that all small municipalities are facing these days. And These are economic issues due to the inflationary pressures, some of the geopolitical issues, the growing infrastructure funding gap, some of the lingering COVID-19 pandemic issues, and the ever-changing municipal landscape. And it really, this really sort of speaks to the burdens and the pressures that small municipalities face on their resources. But the good news is that council has elected to take a strategic approach to service delivery and problem solving, and this strategic plan will respond to that and provide some great direction moving forward. And all staff reports should really reference the strategic plan, talking about the goals and key priorities and how they align with council's vision for the municipality when something is coming before you. So it's a great tool to point staff and council in the direction that they had selected. With respect to your mission statement, there is no change to that. Everybody, I think, consulted felt that it was a fairly appropriate one for Wawa. It reads, council and its employees proudly serve the community by providing a balanced range of sustainable, affordable, and necessary core municipal services and programs that meet the residents' needs. And that's very true. Our observations are just that is exactly what Wawa is doing. And that will be sort of your reason for being, your mission statement. Why are you here? And that really articulates that very well. With respect to the vision statement, there was some discussion around making it more of a future forward or a goal-oriented vision statement. So it has been adjusted somewhat. It maintains the general gist of the original vision statement, but puts it in more of a futuristic outlook. So the revised wording is, Wawa will be a leading community that other Ontario municipalities aspire to emulate as we continually strive to offer essential and cost-effective programs and services. And as we move through the key priorities and action items, that is very clear that that's where Wawa is heading and wants to be. With respect to core values, and I should say, council, I probably didn't mention this, but we collected some great photos thanks to your staff, and we've included them here. And this is, from what I understand, your Canada Day photograph, which is just great. The core values, these have not changed, but core values are really what your belief system is, and they're what guide your actions. And your core values are integrity and respect, teamwork and collaboration, excellent customer service, fiscal responsibility and sustainability, and accountability. And those are, they're fantastic ones to have as a municipality. They're very relevant, not only to small municipalities, but in today's world. So when we think about key priorities and action items, this is where your vision gets turned into action. It's where where the rubber hits the road, and it's where you realize your goals, objectives, and vision. So within these, you will see that your transformation review topics are provided for cross-reference where appropriate. So you will see a number, and I'll point those out to you, but you will see a number that you can reference back to your transformation review if you want to cross-reference. Your key priorities and action items are measurable, and that's helpful for future monitoring and reporting purposes. Each action item is accompanied with a recommended priority ranking. This is new. I'll walk you through that once we get to them, and an estimated timeline. And it's possible that action items may span multiple years, occur annually, or require a permanent ongoing effort. And they're the best estimate of the year and or frequency of engagement. So it's important to note that timelines are intended to be a guide for planning purposes. They're not cast in stone. And depending on shifting priorities, they may require some adjustment. And this is precisely why annual reporting is so important, and monitoring your plan. So, and again, your CAO has done a great job. It was very easy for us to pick up the ball and run with this. Your CAO had some great information about the status of all of your projects. And that's a testament to her and her staff for doing a good job at staying on top of this, keeping the plan relevant. Your key priorities are the following 6 items. Our infrastructure improvements, tourism and economic development, government operations, long-term financial planning, human resources, and programs and services. And these were arrived at through the consultative processes that we went through, and they are in full alignment with the transformation review. Your first key priority is infrastructure improvements. There's a quote there, and it's a pretty relevant one from 2021 from AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And it indicates that municipalities own more of Ontario's core infrastructure than any other order of government. And these facilities are essential to our economic prosperity, health, and quality of life. And your strategic goal here is to reduce the infrastructure funding deficit and expand the use of strategies and innovative tools to effectively manage long-term infrastructure needs. This is one of the biggest pressures that all of our clients face. There is that gap, and it's just not getting any smaller. So staying on top of these and having strategic goals here are an absolute necessity. So this is how all of your action items will appear. These are the action items for infrastructure improvements, but I'll just walk you through how they're set up. On the left, we have a reference number. So these are the reference numbers to the order in which they appear in this strategic plan. So for infrastructure, it's INF-1 and so on. Then you have the action items or description. Then you have the TR reference. That's the transformation review reference from the study that was done. So this is how it aligns with it. And most do. Some are newer and may not. But in this particular case for infrastructure item 1, it aligns with asset management 01 from the transformation review. The priority ranking is our suggestion about priority in terms of what you should do first. And often the P2s, actually you need the P1 to happen first. So that's kind of the way we've set this up, and we've set it up in that order. And then on the estimated timeline, as I was saying earlier, in this particular case for this particular item, it's an annual goal that you have in your action items. Others, if you look to the bottom item infrastructure 4, is estimated to be done in 2024. As I said, this is not cast in stone. This is how your staff will work with council and estimate when it would happen, but you are not compelled to wait until 2024 if something comes up. If you felt it was necessary to start in 2023, you could do that, and you could push it back. It's certainly within your purview. I'll walk through these items. The action items here under infrastructure improvements include update the asset management plan with condition assessments and levels of service. Infrastructure item number 2 is increase annual funding to capital reserves for future infrastructure needs. So this really responds, both of these, to the strategic goal. Implement capital recommendations from the water and wastewater master plan. And so you'll see this one doesn't have a transformation review reference. That's because this work was done after the transformation review. So that's the reason for that. Complete a conceptual design with cost estimates and financing strategies to upgrade town hall and construct. So those are the 4 action items on this page. Madam Mayor, at any time, if you want to stop or if a member of council wants to stop us and ask a question, please do. And if we move to the next page of action items for infrastructure improvements, we have number 5 is pursue funding and complete upgrades to improve the community center, HVAC system, and other critical building components. And number 6, complete a conceptual design with cost estimates and financing strategies to replace or upgrade the fire hall. And you can see how these are further down the priority ranking, but still very important initiatives. The next key priority is tourism and economic development. And that particular strategic goal is to facilitate the development and growth of a diversified and sustainable economy by supporting tourism, growth, and entrepreneurship. And as we work through these particular items, the first one, item 1, is develop and implement a housing strategy to increase housing stock. That was probably number 1 we heard through all of our consultations, whether it was with community, council, and or staff. Establish a round table to engage with mining and forestry industries to realize mutual opportunities. You'll remember that that was discussed when we met with council in June. Encourage private owners to comply with property standards bylaw. Complete the update of the community improvement plan, which is nearing completion. Complete the implementation of the municipal accommodation tax. So those are the 5 on that particular page, and there are more. On the next page, number 6, hire an economic development officer, and that is, subject to acquiring funding. And many of our clients have been successful at acquiring that, by the way, council. Develop and implement a branding and marketing strategy. And a lot of these ones that fall below the economic development officer fall there for a reason. We think that it would be the economic development officer that would take a leadership role under the CAO's guidance to complete these next tasks. So number 8, implement recommendations in the 5-year Wawa tourism plan and develop implementation plan. Undertake a market gap analysis, develop and implement an immigration strategy, and complete a review of future operations of the Tourist Information Center. So those are your action items for tourism and development. With respect to government operations, your strategic goal is to implement programs and policies that enhance the effective and efficient delivery of government operations and services. So pretty straightforward, and actually borrowing wording from the Municipal Act with respect to effective and efficient delivery of services. So when we look to these action items, number 1 is submit annual departmental work plans. As I said earlier, this is where the administration operationalizes council's visions and goals. Conduct a facilitated review of any of the outstanding transformation review recommendations to affirm council's priorities. So this is just to make sure council, the new council, is in agreement with those and what resources would be applied to them. Promote the municipal website to encourage more use and deliver services efficiencies. And on this one, this is one where we thought there was some room to improve based on the online survey. We didn't feel that enough people were leveraging the municipal website, which is excellent, by the way. I think it's just a matter of marketing it to the public. Update, monitor, and report semi-annually on the strategic plan, which we know is happening. Increase regular external and internal communications. That was another thing, both at the transformation review, but also through some of the feedback on the online survey that pointed us to opportunities to get a little better in those areas. Then item 6, develop strategies to implement AMO's calls to action for truth and reconciliation. Madam Mayor, you reminded us that that should be in here at our last session. Review and update bylaws and policies regularly. This is just to make sure that we're on top of our most important bylaws and policies and that they remain current. Complete fire risk assessment and update the regulating bylaw. Review transit operations and consider converting bus to electric van, and support and encourage building a new OPP detachment. Again, some of these are still linked to your transformation review, others are not. Our next key priority is long-term financial planning, and closely linked to the infrastructure side of things as well. But the strategic goal is to develop strategies to achieve long-term sustainability based on service objectives and financial challenges. And here we have number 1 is to complete a review of the AD sub apportionment calculations. You'll recall those that were on council before that we had done some work suggesting that there's some adjustments that ought to be made, in our opinion. Implement recommendations from the water wastewater rate charges review. Update the 10-year financial plan annually. This is very important. Sometimes what we hear is that a 10-year financial plan gets produced and then it never gets updated as you move 1 year further into it. It should always be a 10-year forecast, in other words. So as you complete 1 year, you should adjust the what would have been the 11th year in that year. Implement recommendations in the water and wastewater 10-year financial plan, and undertake a review of the Wawa Community Center operations, user fees to ensure sustainability, and update annually. And the next key priority is human resources. And I really like this strategic goal. It's to take the best care of employees and ensure the best fit between employees and jobs while avoiding manpower shortages or surpluses. So, you know, it's having the right people in the right positions and the right amount of staffing. And the action items are ensure annual training and team building plans for staff and council are implemented. Develop a succession plan strategy. This came up. We have some people who could retire in the foreseeable future, and it's important to have a strategy in place to backfill. Complete an independent organizational review to ensure resources align with service levels. And that is closely linked to a action item PS1, which I will get to, but it's with respect to service levels. And 3B is review and update job descriptions and hire a consultant to conduct pay equity and job evaluation reviews. So that would follow after any organizational review. You would do that in sequence. So you can see that the priority rankings are reflect that. So 3A is a priority ranking of P2 and 3B is a priority ranking of P3. And the final key priority is programs and services review. The strategic goal to carefully monitor and review our internal and external programs and services to ensure they are relevant, best practice, efficient, and financially viable. It's important to point out that often some municipalities will fall into the trap of accepting that, you know, we've done it that way forever, so let's continue doing it. And with a strategic goal like this, it's very good because you will always be keeping an eye on things and seeing where things can be tweaked. And so I mentioned earlier that the organizational review would be linked to PS1, and PS1 is at the top here. And that is review and determine service levels of core services in all departments. So you'd be looking at whether the core services, whether council feels the core services are appropriate. And then you might make organizational adjustments, as I noted in the previous slides. And then you have PS2, which is review external broadband requirements for the community, pursue upgrades and funding opportunities, both priority ones. The PS3 is review opportunities to increase recycling and reduce weekly garbage pickup to bi-weekly, review waste collection and cost effectiveness of the delivery model. And finally, develop a cemetery expansion plan. These are your key priorities and your action items. There's a fair amount there, but I believe you have a competent staff who are certainly able to deal with these in an orderly manner. And I know that with Maury's leadership, that won't be an issue. With respect to your strategic plan at a glance, this is kind of your entire strat plan on one sheet of paper, from your mission, your vision, your core values, and then you have your key priorities and actions listed in the columns that follow. So it's a quick reference tool. Staff can have this sort of pinned to their bulletin board or as a background on their screens, on their computers, just to sort of keep things top of mind and what you have in your action items or what are included in those columns that are there in the same order as well. So easy to reference. And when it comes to reporting, this is just a sample, but it would be one way of reporting. So the example that's been given here is the key priority of human resources. It notes what the strategic goal is. It talks about the action itself, references the TR code if it is applicable. It provides the timelines as shown, who the lead might be and what the status of it might be. So statuses would be started, not started, completed, or delayed. Very, useful tool, very quick reference for council and staff as well. And with that, Mayor and members of council, that is the recommended draft strategic plan, and we would certainly be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Michael. I wanted to, I certainly have a few comments and questions of my own, but before I jump into mine, I'd like to open the floor to members of council. Councillor Hoffman, Councillor Cannon. Councillor Cannon.
I loved the presentation. The input from the community, I see we have some work to do with communicating with the public and so on, but I know that we will get there in the future. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Councillor Hatfield, do you have anything to add?
The only thing can you hear me?
We sure can.
The only thing that I'm a little confused on is updating hiring policies and procedures. Is that council that does that?
No, that would be a staff recommendation, but I believe that, just bear with me. I believe that has been removed. It was in your previous plan, but that has been removed because from what I understand, they're relatively up to date since the last strategic plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I had two first initial comments, Michael. First, I love the recommendation to have a quick reference sheet. Certainly that's something that I believe that in addition to staff, I think myself and council should have one at our desks or podiums or however you want to reference these seats we sit in. So we could, all of our decisions can be kind of made and reflected upon our strategic plans. If the decisions we're making don't forward our strategic plan, then we should take pause and reflect, upon our decisions, because they should be, our decisions should be evidence-based. So I think that's really, really a good thing that I hope that we can, an easy tool to implement. So we ourselves keep the strategic plan on top of mind. The other thing that I wanted to say is I love that we went out into the community. I noticed that there wasn't the total number of respondents was only 72, so it's not a huge portion of the community that did respond. But I still think that it's still good that we did reach out. But I think that it's probably incumbent upon the municipality to get a better a better idea from the community, to get a true glance of what our constituents think. I wanted to highlight a few projects that I felt that were priorities for council that were missed. And perhaps I didn't provide input at the council session, or maybe we did and they got maybe missed or lost in the wash, so to speak. Industrial park development. I believe that was something that we discussed. under tourism and economic development, hiring an EDO, it says, in brackets, pending funding. I believe that all council will agree that whether or not we are successful in obtaining funding from FedNor or NOHFC or any other funding agency, that economic development does need to be a priority. And if we are not successful, we should come together and really find a way. So I'd like to see that pending funding removed, because we do need to chart a path forward regardless of funding, regardless of whether or not we're successful. I believe, and Maury, please keep me honest, I believe union negotiations will be coming up in our term for all of our unionized employees. So I think that needs to be a priority that's top of mind for this term of council. So I would like to see that added. And something that's very near and dear to my heart, and we certainly had conversations with staff and members of the community, Valley Park land use permitting, and to ensure that access to Valley Park is restored. I think that that's a tourism initiative, and we have heard from very prominent members of the community, such as Andy Stevens and others, that would like to have that issue solved. So those are the number of issues that I've just. Oh, and my last one is physician recruitment, and I believe that is a key issue that needs to be highlighted in our strategic plan as a priority for mayor and council. And I know that Councillor Hatfield does sit on a committee that focuses on that. But I believe if it's in the plan, then we may be able to funnel resources, adequate resources to a project like that. So I will get off my soapbox now, but I think that those are the notes that I had made. And if there's no other objections from council, perhaps I could ask that those projects be included. Councillor Hatfield, do you have any objections?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Michael, comments, questions?
No, none. My only comment would be that we will take that as a direction and work with Maury on some wording that fits your needs. Certainly the hire the EDO, removing the pending funding, that's not an issue whatsoever. That's an easy one. But making sure we capture the essence of the union, the Valley Park, and the industrial park position recruitment, we'll make sure that we get the right words in there through working with your CAO.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And my apologies that I didn't come sooner with those.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, Mayor Pilo, that I do recall the industrial park development and the Valley Park land use were part of our conversations. We normally wait if we hear it from multiple sources, and that's probably why it didn't get down to the initial draft. But certainly you have council's support on proceeding with them. So we'll certainly, as Michael said, get them into the final document.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So I'll have a last call for questions or comments, and if not, I think we'll move on to our second delegation and presentation. Okay. So I'm not seeing any further comments. So I will thank you very much for your presentation. It was excellent, and we look forward to receiving the final draft. And it was excellent. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We'll have that to you in very short order. We'll be in touch with Maury. Thanks again.
I want to just say thank you for the opportunity of working with you again, and always enjoy my time spent with council and staff at Wawa, and look forward to seeing you all again, and wish you well on your term of council. All the best.
Wonderful. Good night.
Yeah.
So we will now move on to, we have a second delegation or presentation. We will now hear from Mrs. Jessie Labonte on the Wawa Housing Action Plan. Jessie, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I believe everyone here knows me, but just in case, my name is Jessie Labonte and I work as the Economic Development Assistant here with the Municipality of Wawa. In this position, I assist the Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee, sorry, that's a mouthful, who meet once a month to provide insight on economic development and tourism issues in Wawa. When recently reviewing the Wawa Strategic Plan, it was noted that increasing housing in Wawa was a top priority. So in response, staff have provided support to develop a housing plan for Wawa to act as a framework for the municipality when considering future housing. The plan utilized data from the Housing Needs and Assessment Study that was completed in 2017, supplemented with data from the Algoma District Services Administration Board regarding current numbers for their wait lists. The numbers provided by ADSAB only substantiated what we already knew about the need for housing in Wawa, with 77 on the wait list for subsidized housing units, 51 of those for 1 bedroom, and 25 for market rent. This doesn't include all the current housing demand in Wawa in the community to date. It doesn't take into consideration those coming in for work or seniors that are looking for alternate forms of housing. The plan outlines 5 housing goals with corresponding actions that are recommendations for the municipality to consider when moving forward with housing development in Wawa. Goal 1 is to update housing resources. Goal 2 is to diversify housing and innovation. Goal 3, to prepare investment-ready property. Goal 4 is to retain and maintain existing affordable housing. And finally, Goal 5 is to explore and foster potential partnerships. I will briefly highlight some of the recommended strategies that coincide with the listed goals. The first being the current update to the Wawa Community Improvement Plan. With this update, it should provide incentives towards residential development in the CIP area, such as grants or waiver of fees. And with the success of these incentive programs, we could look at the possibility to extend beyond the CIP area, for example, possibly down Mission Road. Another recommended strategy would be to introduce an accessory dwelling unit program, which would encourage accessory residential units, such as basin apartments or garden houses, on most residential lots that would qualify by providing the incentive of a one-time grant to homeowners. The plan also recommends other actions such as, but not limited to, developing a plan to service residential property such as the municipal property owned on Tamarack Road and Algoma Street, developing a brownfield incentive program, exploring and fostering Indigenous, public, and private sector partnerships, and updating the housing need and demand study. If Council chooses to approve the draft Wawa Housing Action Plan, staff would take the next steps to engage residents with a community survey and focus groups, and then proceed to take the feedback received from the community and integrate it into the final action plan. Once the plan is finalized, staff with the support of the EdTAC would move forward with implementation of recommended actions, including utilizing provincial and federal grants available, with an overall goal of increasing housing in Wawa. I have provided a very brief overview of the draft Wawa Housing Action Plan tonight, and I look forward to Council reviewing and providing me with comments. And I also look forward to implementing such a high priority outlined in the Wawa Strategic Plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Great delivery. I think it was perfect. Is there any comments from council? Councillor Cannon?
Well done, Jesse. That was a very good, your action plan was done well. I have one question though. You say in that Wawa could offer a residential office conversion grant in
Yes.
the grants. Is there a real need for office space?
So within the action plan, I just provided some examples of what other communities have done to provide incentives and grants. And so that is a possibility. I'm not sure. I would have to do some research and get back to what would actually be available within the CIP area.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. In the CIP area, right?
Okay.
Is that?
Yes, but it was a misunderstanding.
meant Sorry.
Convert commercial to residential.
Oh, is that, sorry. Is that what you meant? Right, so office to residential,
No,
isn't that
you
what
just
you said?
had that residential / office conversion grant.
Okay, so yes, sorry, I misunderstood. So it would be office space to residential space. And that's an example that was provided. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Councillor Hatfield, do you have any questions or comments?
No, well done, Jess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So I look forward to this. So for council's reference, the Wawa Housing Action Plan is a mandatory document that we must have in order to apply for funding. So it's really well done. With regards to the community improvement plan or the CIP, I love the idea of extending it down Mission Road. However, it is my vision that we would extend it all the way down Pinewood Drive. I don't want to see us limiting ourselves. I'd like to extend it to anywhere in Wawa where commercial activity is happening. So if we can take that under consideration, perhaps there's maybe a reason why we're not able to do that. But I'll leave that comment with you for consideration.
Perfect. With it being a draft, I'm sure we could add it in.
Perfect. So if there's no other comments, we will move on to item number 5. 5.1, Committee of the Whole meeting, adoption of minutes. May I have a mover? Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. Item number 6, business arising out of previous meeting. 6.1, firefighter protocol for funeral service policy.
Thank you, Mayor. And in council's package was a copy of the draft protocol for fire funeral services, and subsequent to this being reviewed by the fire department, which we did receive comment from a couple of firefighters. I've added it to the agenda to make sure that council has no final comments before we forward this to the September 5th council meeting for adoption.
Any comments, questions? Councillor Hoffman, did you want to use your microphone? So,
from what I've heard, everybody seems to be quite happy with the proposal.
Councillor Hatfield, Councillor Cannon, any comments, questions?
No, none from me.
Hearing no other comments, we will see the firefighter protocol on the September 5th meeting.
Mayor, I made an error, regular meeting.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, so we will move on
Excuse
to
me,
item number 7,
Melanie,
monthly
your voice
reports.
is coming in and out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, it's okay now.
Okay, perfect. That might have been my error. So we'll move on to monthly reports. And Maury, did you want to guide me on how we're handling this item
Thank you, Mayor. Staff is available this evening if you'd like a brief summary of the reports or what we were establishing at the last meeting. Council can accept the reports in the regular meeting tonight and take the opportunity to ask any questions if they have read the reports, and so we can expedite the approvals.
Oh yes, I knew that we had agreed on something. So staff is here to answer any questions or if council has any comments on the monthly reports that were received. Council, does anybody have any questions or comments for staff? Councillor Cannon?
You, Dan. I noticed around the schools again that you were working on the sidewalks. Did we not do the sidewalks last year?
Yes, we were doing the sidewalk, or sorry, that wasn't us doing the sidewalks.
Oh.
That was the contractor. They were doing for the school zone. It was something that was brought up by the engineer that they had to be replaced.
I just wondered why they were doing it again. Thanks.
Councillor Hoffman, can I?
Question about the landfill. How big is a cell?
The cells are 100 feet wide by 400 feet long,
And how deep are they?
just over 10 feet, just over 3 meters.
So how long should that last before we have to dig another one?
So they said between a year and a half and 2 years.
Okay. And now you have the new machine,
Yes, we do.
the mini excavator,
Yes.
and that mini excavator is for digging graves and digging a cell.
The mini excavator is for a lot of different reasons, that being a couple of them, yes.
Is that mini excavator out at the cemetery right now?
Yes, it is, Counselor.
I think it would take a rather long time to dig a cell with that little machine.
We did not dig the cell with our backhoe or anything else. We used a loader to dig this one, and it worked out fine.
No, but I'm thinking that mini excavator, I don't think that mini excavator would dig that cell. It would take forever.
It would with just that one piece of equipment, but we have we have loaders and everything else to do the job.
Okay. Oh, another one, if I can.
Yes, you may.
We talked in the last now about the Valley Park, and because I had someone come up to me and ask me about the sign, and I see we are going to try and rejuvenate the bridge or whatever, access to the, is that you?
So if you take a look into this year's budget, which includes like a 4-year forecast, we had put it in the forecast for subject to funding based on a couple things. One of the biggest things it was based off of was the willingness for the Voyageur Trail Association to take on the trail and integrate that into the Voyageur Trail network. So they've expressed that they are willing to do that. They're working through some land permitting issues, which is what Mayor was talking about. So we have some help to give them to facilitate that process of land usage. And once that is solved and we can find some funding for some type of crossing, then we'll come back to council and say, hey, here's what's happening. Here's the funding that we've identified, looking for permission to move forward. In the background, I've been doing some work on different options for that crossing, including different kind of bridges, culverts, things like that. I have cost estimates ranging from $75,000 to $300,000. So there's lots of options essentially being investigated right now for that crossing.
Okay, because I had a question. The woman just said, well, if you're not going to fix the park and if we can't access it, why don't you take the sign down? And I said, well, I'll find out what's going on, because I had heard we were going to try and rehabilitate that park.
Yeah, the intention is there, and I would hate for the sign to have been up the last couple of years and then take it down maybe the year before we managed to get funding and put it all back together again.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, Mr. Hoffman, Councillor Hoffman.
Okay. And now, or is that on the next page, the grass cutting? I can ask now, or I can.
No,
wait?
it's an agenda item.
Okay, I'll wait. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Hatfield, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Dan, do we have a mechanic yet?
No, we don't, but we did actually interview one today. A
Oh,
potential.
very good. And Dan, is all our equipment up to date and fixed and everything?
It is out being fixed, the stuff that is broken.
Okay, okay. I was just told that the equipment wasn't working and I didn't know what they meant. So it's all being fixed.
It is being sent out to equipment places to being fixed right now, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So with that said, we will move on to new business 8.1. Mr. Patterson, I believe that the floor is yours.
For a quick summary, apologies for the lateness. I was off for about a week and a half, and so I wrote this morning. For the drill rig, so you'll note that there's an engineer's report attached that comes from a couple years of observations about the drill rig. I have a whole series of pictures showing it leaning a little bit and a little bit and a little bit that we've noticed throughout our inspections over the last 2 or so years. This spring, it got bad enough and it was worsening to the point that we called an engineer in to give us an opinion about the stability of the drill rig and the feasibility of having that piece of infrastructure there, what repairs would need to be done to stabilize it, things like that. So attached to this memo is a summary of that report. That report considers a specific option, which is make repairs to the drill rig. And I've included for council's consideration other options that we have. I've talked to a couple local contractors about the piece of equipment, talked to the engineers a lot about what potential options are for us. And I'm writing a report right now that includes a recommendation on that, although I haven't finished the research yet. And specifically, I haven't gotten all of the costs together yet for council to consider. So this is a preliminary memo. It's meant for information only. There's no decision of council being asked for today. About some of the options. Certainly I'm all ears if there's other options that I haven't considered in this that council would like us as staff to consider. But these are the 4 main options that we are considering for our report to council in September about the drill rig. So informational only at this point, and certainly happy to take comments, questions, concerns.
Okay. So if I can just reiterate what you're saying is council will accept this. We will table this to a future meeting in September. And we can consider these over the next 30 to 45 days.
Absolutely, yeah. It's to put on everybody's radar for people to think about what the options are. I don't have any costs yet, which is the biggest reason that there's no recommendation, but Maury likes to say no surprises. So this is something we've been looking at for the last couple months, and we're at a point where we have a report. We're almost ready to make a decision. We're just doing some investigation.
Okay.
Could I ask a question, Melanie?
Yes, you may.
Okay, Alex, in your cost, could you put in, if anybody knows, what would it cost to disassemble and get rid of it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there any other questions, keeping in mind that this is a very preliminary report at this time? Councillor Hoffman, you're willing to wait? Okay, perfect. Okay, so thank you very much, Alex, and we will move on to 8.2. Ms. Weatherall, the floor is yours.
There we go. Okay, now it's on. Hi, Mayor and Council. So the report that I prepared for you this evening is for the fabrication and installation of new HDPE feed tanks. So fortunately for Wawa in 2006, we got a beautiful state-of-the-art plant. One of those things happens to come with that plant is the membrane filter system. HDPE feed tanks, their design and purpose is to accept raw water, facilitate the movement of that water through the membrane filters, and as well as facilitate backwashing in the membranes, which includes chemical rinsing. with various chemicals to ensure, that they don't get clogged up, bacteria doesn't exist in the membranes, things like that. So HDPE tanks typically have a useful life of about 10 years. We're fortunate that they have lasted this long. We repaired quite a few splits in those tanks through plastic welding services. And then again, as those splits were fixed, more developed and or some that were really hard to repair just due to their location have reopened again. So what, although this is really more or less operational, we were really hoping that Mayor and Council would, support the water department in fabricating and having new tanks installed by Surecraft Plastics. We've reached out to a number of plastic fabricators, plastic tank fabricators, and unfortunately, everybody's really busy, won't give me a quote, won't even put me on a schedule. I've contacted PAL, and they can't get us tanks for a better price, including installation and assistance with that. Where Surecraft Plastics has guaranteed us a 2-year warranty on tanks that are just under 12 grand plus HST. I think this is a really good way moving forward. They've been so helpful with the plastic splitting that we have had, and they're willing to get on fabricating tanks right away to take care of this problem. So just hoping that we have your support, and we'd like to move forward as soon as we can. We're scheduling a site visit as long as that works with Mayor and Council.
May I ask a question, Becca? Or Rebecca, Ms. Weatherill? Is this purchase currently in the budget?
So we have not currently had it in the budget. This is more of an emergency measure. We've been dealing with all kinds of splits that are just getting bigger and bigger. And so we've been patching them the best we can, but there's still lots of leaks. So.
Okay. So that was the reason why I asked. So that's the reason why it's being brought to council, because it's an emergency purchase. So I don't have any questions other than that, because I understand that it is a necessary piece of equipment to ensure that our water plant functions as it's supposed to. Does anybody else have any questions? Councillor Cannon?
You said the last tanks were approximately 10 years.
So the useful life is about 10 years. These tanks have not been replaced since their initial installation in 2006.
Okay, so then the new ones only are going to have a 2-year warranty. Do they have still a 10-year?
Yes, the useful life is about the same.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Councillor Hatfield? Oh, I feel like you're nodding no.
That's okay. No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
So I believe that hearing no objections, council is aligned with the purchase of these tanks, and we certainly believe that nice clean water is a priority for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maury, I believe that this you'll be taking 8.4, the sale of surplus equipment. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping 8.3, the draft succession planning.
Thank you. This has been re-added to the corporate planning meeting. It was provided to council for review at the July meeting and then circulated for comment due by July 28th. No comments were received. So I'm providing it on the corporate agenda to see if there's any further comments from council. Otherwise, it is on the following regular meeting for policy adoption.
Is there any comments, questions from council? Hearing none, council is aligned with the policy as presented. And we will move on to 8.4, sale of surplus equipment by tender.
Thank you. Council received a report from Manuela on the sale of surplus equipment. We had put out to bid tender a generator shed and Summers generator. We received 3 bid proposals, and we're recommending tonight that council support staff's recommendation to sell the generator to the bid received from Wawa Rental and Repair, which was the highest bid received.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, council is aligned with your recommendation. We will now move on to item 8.5, municipal grass maintenance. This item was put forth by Councillor Jim Hoffman. Councillor Hoffman?
I had, I was gonna put a notice of motion because I wanted to see the goose, the entrance to the town, kept up better than it is. I wanted the ditch done because I feel that, well, that's the first piece of property that people see when they come into town. And the park is nicely cut and the ditch looks ratty. So I thought, you know, that our people could go in there with whippersnippers and cut this. So I talked with Alec, and well, he told me something about Book 7. But I looked in Book 7 and I talked with MTO people. They say all you need is min working signs and you can cut that ditch.
So I'm just, I feel like you've lost anybody who doesn't know what you're talking about, doesn't know what you're talking about, Councillor Hoffman. So what I would ask you is perhaps, and maybe I'll pose the question to Alex, is perhaps, I think that there's a couple of issues going on here, maybe service level standards, and is really, I think that's really the foundational issue, is you're looking for a service level standard to be increased. I don't know what Book 7 is, and that perhaps we might need some clarity and some background on that issue. I'm not sure that there wasn't a report or anything like that. So I'm not sure that if you want to write a report, I believe that council would be more than happy to receive it. But I believe that Alex might be better prepared to write a report on this issue. Would that be appropriate?
Well, what I was looking for, because I said that when tourists come in, that's the first thing they see. And if you go down Mission Road, all the businesses, except for one, cut their grass to the road line. And so I'm sitting there and we talk about the beautification of Wawa, and this is something that we can do that is not going to cost us an arm and a leg, just our manpower to go into that ditch and keep this thing clean. And with like the airport has done it, and they did it back in June, and what they cut has stayed that way basically for most of the summer. It hasn't. So I'm not asking these guys to go in there every 2 weeks and cut that ditch, because they don't have to, because once they cut it once, it's probably going to be good for about a month or two. You know, it'll last the summer.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's, so council has all of the background information, because, and I think one item to explore is certainly liability, because the road allowance, the MTO road allowance is not municipal property. So I'm interested in learning on, you know, what are risks, and how we mitigate risks.
Well, Book 7 is a book that takes into effect all roadways, freeways, secondary highways, and whatever. And so we looked for ditch. I didn't find anything on ditches. I found shoulders, but all it says is for safety, that the men working just need to put up men working signs because they're down in the ditch. And actually out at the Goose, the roadway, there's a shoulder. That shoulder is about 9 to 10 feet wide. And then there's a strip of gravel about 3 feet from there to the ditch. So there's 12 feet of clearance there.
Yeah.
So for somebody to get killed, they'd really have to be working out in traffic.
So I respect what you're saying, and I respect your opinion, but I think we definitely need more information in order to make a decision on increasing service level standards.
Melanie, can I make a comment?
You absolutely can, Councillor Hatfield.
Of course, everybody knows that I'm in Prince Edward Island, and I really made a point of looking at entrances to small towns, big towns, and everything. And everything is manicured. Like it's just unbelievable how beautiful everything is. And it's done in the ditches. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah. So Councillor Hatfield and Councillor Hoffman, I'm not saying that I disagree. I'm saying that this requires further time to really delve into what kind of liabilities and what kind of safety precautions that we need. It really is increasing a service level standard. And because we are a municipality, we have to do things in a organized, methodical fashion. And I think making a decision, we're not positioned to make a decision with a verbal report. Councillor Cannon, did you have a comment?
Yeah, we need the fact, and I'm willing to wait for it, but it does have to be addressed. I mean, I agree with Councillor Hoffman also. It's the first thing people see when they come to town. And the standards, yes, could be improved.
Thank you. So, Mayor, if I may suggest to council, if all council would agree, we will bring this to staff, and staff will prepare a report, and we will look at the options and the costs and Book 7 regulations, and report back to council at the next available opportunity.
I think that that's very fair. And so I thank you, Councillor Hoffman, for bringing this on the agenda. And I think we're now incumbent to take a look at it and to investigate further.
Thank you.
I would like to say one other thing. Is that okay, Mayor?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I do have a problem that every time we seem to bring something to council, it's always availability, when they can do it, and then it gets put off for 1 or 2 months. So I would hope you can do it as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hatfield. I know that you are aware that our staff works very, very hard, and that they do have a lot on their plates. So I know that your comments are received with as much respect as possible for the good work that our team does. So we have no in-camera session items, nor do we have business arriving from closed sessions. Our next meeting date is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. And I will now move to adjourn and close the meeting at 7:52 p.m. May I have somebody make a motion to close? Councillor Cannon, and seconded by Councillor Hoffman. Let me know when you're ready, Maury, to move to the regular council. So we will call this meeting to order and note the members present at 7:53 p.m. All in favor? Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Councillor Cannon? Do you want to use your microphone?
I, Councillor Kathy Cannon, declare a potential indirect pecuniary interest on the last meeting dated July 11th, 2023. On agenda item number 4.2. I didn't declare it an open council, but I did declare it the in camera, so I'm declaring an open council now. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, approval of agenda.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 be approved as amended.
All in favor? Carried. Announcements and giving of notice. There are many announcements, 10 to be exact, listed on the agenda for people to take note of. Does any of the councillors have any announcements that they would like to make? Councillor Cannon?
I would just like to say that this weekend is the 41st Wawa Salmon Derby, and I encourage all council and staff to come and check it out. The fishing has been really good, and I see that one of our staff members caught a big fish on the weekend. I can't wait to see a picture. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. I don't have any announcements today. So we'll move on to item number 6, adoption of minutes. 6.1, regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the following minutes of the meeting of council be adopted as presented. Minutes of a regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, July 11th, 2023, as contained on pages 1 to 8, inclusive of the minute book.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 7, correspondence. Again, there are a number of items listed for correspondence. Maury, is there any particular item of correspondence that council should pay particular attention to?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would note 7.1, the letter from the Minister of Finance. The municipality has received its 2023 Power Dam Special Payment Allocation and Payment Notice. We receive approximately every year 2.3 million. And this is really in lieu of the taxation of the power dams that we no longer have the power to tax. This amount has not been increased or indexed for cost of living or increased over the last few years. We staff wait in anticipation every year. We depend on this grant. And it would be devastating if we did not receive this grant. And we never know year to year, although we budget it until about this time when we receive the letter that the grant is coming forward. So on a good news note, we have received the funding for this year, so all is good. I just quickly note the thank you, the appreciation of support from Masquaw Transportation Association and Ms. Nabby Cree for council agreeing to provide a financial donation to the creation of the business plan for the Passenger Rail Train. Staff, and I would recognize Jesse Labonte, had applied for a grant from the Experience Ontario grant that was available at the time, and she submitted a grant, and with the support of the Community Services Department, we received about $6,000 to support our Canada Day activities. This is not a grant we normally apply for, so thank you to Jesse and the staff. And there is one item for council to consider. There's not a motion on the regular meeting for tonight from Margaret Davidson, who is entering the Mrs. Elite Wawa Regional Canada contest, and she has a letter requesting sponsorship. Although there's not a motion on tonight, council may consider a donation at their meeting on September 5th. And council does have some sponsorship funds in their budget. So we'll prepare a resolution to support the request for the September 5th meeting, unless I hear otherwise. So thank you for that. And I would just, finally note 7.9 for council's interest. There is a resolution circulating within Ontario municipalities to declare intimate partner violence as an epidemic. And Paula Valois from Chadwick has reached out to the mayor. And so the mayor has invited Paula to come and speak to council, I believe at the October 3rd meeting. And that's when we will put forward a resolution to support that declaration at the meeting at that time once council hears from Paula at Chadwick. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Maureen. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Item 8. 8.1, approval of the consent agenda.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, second by Councillor Cannon, resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda, items 8.2 and 8.3, be approved as recommended.
All in favor? Carried. Item 8.2, receive committee/board minutes.
Consent agenda covered 8.2 and 8.3, so we go to 9.1.
Always get that mixed up.
I do as well.
Item number 9, staff reports.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive the following staff reports and memos. A, Protective Services Department, July 2023 monthly report. Finance Department, July 23 monthly report. Infrastructure Services Department, July 23 monthly report. AP memo on the drill rig preliminary options and Telec engineering report, Broadway Avenue drill monument inspection. RW 2023-12, the HDPE feed tank replacement. And FMB 2023-19, award the tender for surplus equipment.
All in favor? Carried. Number 10, business arising out of previous minutes meeting. There is none. Item number 11, new business. 11.1.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman. Whereas the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa completed a detailed financial analysis and review of the formula used by the Algoma District Services Area Board since 2002, and the review confirmed that the method used to determine apportionment calculations has resulted in an unequitable and unfair ADSAB annual budget allocation being charged to Wawa taxpayers for more than a decade. And whereas the apportionment formula has not been reviewed annually by the ADSAB board, as was intended and contained in its board resolution passed 2002, copy of which is attached. And whereas the current apportionment formula does not reflect today's circumstances, as conditions have dramatically changed over the past 20 years, including population makeups, municipal responsibilities, removal of the annual indexing of power dam grants, and assessment figures that the current apportionment formula does not take into account. And whereas Municipal Council looks forward to working collaboratively with the ADSAB board and staff to review and explore an updated and fair apportionment model, so the ADSAB board may make a fully informed decision about the apportionment formula to be used in the future. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa requests that the ADSAB board conduct a full review of the apportionment formula and update the calculation method used to ensure equity and fairness for all partner communities, including the Municipality of Wawa. And further, that Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa appoints Mayor Melanie Pilo as the main spokesman and champion on behalf of Council to be responsible to bring this matter to the attention of the ADSAB board, and that Council agrees to appoint Mr. John L. O'Kane as its legal representative in this matter.
All in favor? Carried. Item 11.2.
That item was struck, Mayor, in the addenda. It's not on the agenda any longer.
Okay, perfect. 11.3.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon, resolved that Council of the Corporation of Municipality Wawa does hereby accept the staff recommendation as contained in Report W 2023-12 HDPE feed tank replacement and approves a quotation from Surecraft Plastics for the supply and installation of the water treatment plant feed tanks at a maximum budget of $36,000, 0 cents plus HST.
All in favor? Carried. 11.4.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive the draft Wawa Housing Action Plan as prepared and presented by municipal staff.
All in favor? Carried. 11.5.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, Resolved that Council of the Corporation of Municipality Wawa hereby accepts staff recommendation from report MB 2023-20, sale of surplus equipment by tender, and awards the tender to Wawa Rental and Repair to purchase the Summers generator serial number 96-204209 and generator shed in the amount of $5,250, being the highest bid received.
All in favor? Carried. There is no notice of motion, so we will move on to item number 13, bylaws. 13.1.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, second by Councillor Cannon, resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3616-23, to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 15th day of August 2023. Bylaw number 3617-23, to amend bylaw number 3092-18 and enter into a lease agreement with His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Public Infrastructure Renewal respecting the lease of municipal office space to be utilized as a provincial court. Bylaw number 3618-23, to adopt Municipality of Wawa Policy HR 031, Firefighter Protocol for Funeral Service. Bylaw number 3619-23, to adopt Municipality of Wawa Policy number HR 032, Succession Planning. Bylaw number 3620-23, to enter an agreement with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation for funding assistance under the Community Enhancement Program to complete renovations to the Mitch McConnell Memorial Community Centre. Bylaw number 3621-23, to delegate authority to provide marriage solemnization services to Miss Rebecca Weatherall. Bylaw number 3622-23, to enter into an employment agreement and appoint a chief administrative officer clerk for the municipality of Wawa. Bylaw number 3623-23, to enter into an agreement with the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services, Ontario Provincial Police for an alternate service delivery location. And bylaw 3624-23, to enter an agreement with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for funding assistance under the Asset Management Program.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 14, closed session.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, second by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that this committee proceed in camera at 8:07 p.m. in order to address the following matters pertaining to item number 14.2, it's a legal issue. There's one item. It's an application to council under section 357 of the Municipal Act. It's related to a personnel matter about an identifiable individual. Item 14.3 is a legal issue. It's an office to purchase property, and it's related to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land under the municipality. 14.4 is an education or training session for council members. There's one item, a council orientation training refresher, a recommendation, and it's related to the meeting of council for the purposes of education or training the members as permitted under the Municipal Act under section 25, section 239.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you. And Councillor Hatfield, we're going to move council to the back room for the in-camera session. Would you have your cell phone available and you could call me and we can you can join in by phone for the in-camera session? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
I don't have a cell phone, Maury. I have a landline.
Oh, okay. I will call you on the landline if you want to provide the number, or you can call here.
And what number do I call there?
1705 914.
Yep. Yes. I didn't get it all, Maury. I didn't get the phone number. I didn't get the whole number, Maury.
She does. Yeah, sorry, Mitch. She doesn't have a cell phone. I can't text her. can you see the, I'm going to send you a chat. Do you know
Okay.
how to, I don't want to broadcast the number on the public YouTube channel.
That's fine.
Okay, I'll send it in the chat.
You know what, Maury? You'll send it in the chat. Chat. Okay, sounds good.
I just. Okay, and where do I put it? Right here?
I got it, Maury.
Okay, thank you. If you could call in about 1 minute, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, welcome back. We will now resume our meeting, and on item number 15, business arising from closed session. Item 15.1.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby accept staff recommendation as contained in report ICMB 2023-19, application made under section 357, and approve the application made for reduction, cancellation, or refund of taxes in accordance with section 357 of the Municipal Act as amended and as per the corresponding impact response for the properties listed below. Roll number 5776 000-001-02400 for the period from February 12th, 2023 to December 31st, 2023.
All in favor? Carried. Item 15.2.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, second by Councillor Cannon, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa hereby cancels the Committee of the Whole meeting scheduled on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, in order for Council to participate in a Council orientation training session refresher scheduled on the same date and to be held during the regular Council meeting.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 16, next meeting date, 16.1, Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. If you'll allow me, I will make a personal note. It's the day after my birthday. Item 17, adjournment. 17.1, close of meeting.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the meeting close at 8:42 p.m.
All in favor? Carried.